Did Vader send Force visions to Kenobi? Now that the Kenobi series has come to a close, let's see if it's even possible to learn such a power. The show didn't quite confirm whether he was sending visions or if Obi-Wan was instead experiencing symptoms of post-traumatic stress. While we don't know for certain because nobody outright talks about it on screen, I think I found quite a bit of evidence from the Star Wars universe to help us out. First half of this video, I'll show the evidence from the show, and in the second half, will be more evidence from the rest of the franchise. First off is a clip from the first episode of the series where Obi-Wan is supposedly dreaming about Anakin's life. Now, how could Obi-Wan be remembering Anakin flying in that Naboo starfighter? Could it be the fault of the editors, or is this instead the dark side meddling with Kenobi's mind? Anakin is the only one who should remember this, and I think this is actually our first hint to Vader sending Force visions. Next, we got the first time Darth Vader speaks in the Kenobi show. He ended his conversation with the third sister and walked to the windows of his castle. Why would this be so important? Well, for one thing, this isn't the last time he does this in the series, and secondly, this is the scene that directly follows him staring out the windows on Mustafar. Was Vader reaching out to Obi-Wan or just trying to scare him? Another quick thing I'd like to point out is that when Obi-Wan learned from Reva that his former Padawan was still alive, he had so much emotion flowing through him that he accidentally and almost instinctually reached out into the Force when he whispered Anakin's name. I guess it could just be coincidence that Vader woke up when we cut to him in the back the tank scene, but this next bit of evidence is probably the strongest from the series. It happened shortly after their fight on Mapuzo. This is when Ben is doing some Polynesian spa dipping of his own. Let's analyze the footage. Here you can see Obi-Wan's eyes are closed the whole time he is seeing visions and thrashing about. Meanwhile, whenever we cut to Vader in his own tank, his eyes are wide open and he seems to be enjoying the anguish Obi-Wan is experiencing and is feeding off of the pain. Skipping ahead to the flashback scenes in the 5th episode, this is where they seem to be sharing this memory and lesson, where Obi-Wan bests Anakin in the end. I don't want to pinpoint the emotional lesson, but instead check out the physical side of this practice duel. Obi-Wan is teaching Anakin to never give up or underestimate an opponent, as well as not relying on just your skills with the blade. Vader shows us that he has grown and easily defeats Reva without even igniting his own saber in their duel. I feel like Vader is still sending Obi-Wan these Force visions here, but this time it's not on purpose. This time, Vader is using his own memories to amplify his anger like Darksiders do. The new element here is Obi-Wan has finally been reconnected with the Force in a strong way after saving Leia's life. Their connection to each other as master and apprentice is so strong that these Force visions are now being seen on a two-way telepathic highway between the two of them. And now for the fun part, supporting evidence from the rest of the franchise. In The Mandalorian, when Din Djarin first takes Baby Yoda to Ahsoka, we clearly see there's some basic telepathy and the capability to communicate through the Force. That's also the scene where we first learn the child's name is Grogu. Even further, in The Mandalorian Season 2.5, also known as the Book of Boba Fett for some reason, Luke Skywalker was able to access Grogu's mind and reveal some of his memories from Order 66. There are so many different powers that a strong Force user can possess. Going as far back as A New Hope, we can extend the reach of these sorts of powers. When Alderaan was blown up, Ben Kenobi was able to feel a great disturbance in the Force from millions of miles away in galactic space. Then, in Empire Strikes Back, Luke reaches out to Leia through the Force so she could save him after his fight with Vader on Cloud City. That one's not as far, but the way Leia reacts here, it's certain Luke has communicated to her through the Force while being apart. Jedi and Sith alike also share a talent for reading others' minds, or even influencing their choices by reaching out through the Force. Darth Vader was able to read Luke's mind to discover that he had a sister. Do you guys remember Cad Bane? Well, he may have had a good reason to dislike the Jedi because Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker were torturing him with their combined strengths just to read his mind. So those were all some sort of force telepathy, to put it in basic terms, but what other ability might one need to successfully implant memories into another's mind? Well, I think it first starts with a strong bond. And then the final piece of the puzzle is force projection. Now, we've all seen Jedi pass on as force ghosts, but Darksiders, or at least the remnants of those Darksiders, have their own limited version of this power. It seems they are either illusions in the force, or are simply bound to tombs and temples, like when Yoda speaks to Darth Bane, or when Kanan Jarrus speaks to the Grand Inquisitor, and even gets promoted to Jedi Knighthood by him. Moving on, let's take a look at the sequel trilogy evidence for this one. And yes, these are currently canon, whether you like them or not. First off, Rey and Kylo have an extremely strong force bond which gives them the power to instantly communicate over vast distances. They are able to physically see each other as well as physically touch and teleport items through the force. Like when Kylo snatches Rey's necklace, or when Rey hits a barrel of fruit, teleporting the berries to her location, and vice versa with Vader's burnt helmet. Their connection is what's known as a dyad in the Force, which is a bond that hasn't been seen for generations according to the Emperor. The most unique part of this bond is that they can use the Force to heal each other. In The Last Jedi, we get the biggest use of Force projection. It's when Luke projected himself onto the Resistance hideout and interacted with Leia one last time. He also teleported her Han's gold die from the Falcon. In the next scene, he talked to Kylo and tried distracting him long enough for the others to escape the base. This use of the power stretched across the galaxy and was Luke at his full force potential in the films. He literally became a being of pure light in the eyes of Kylo Ren. He succeeded in his plan and then passed on peacefully into the Force, similar to how Obi-Wan or Yoda passed on. In conclusion, I can't say for sure whether or not Darth Vader was really sending these visions to Obi-Wan, but with all of the evidence put forward, I'm feeling pretty confident in assuming he very well could have been. Basically, it's my grand explanation to how Obi-Wan could see Anakin as a boy flying the Naboo starfighter. We excuse the third person because that's just how movies are made. However, Obi-Wan couldn't have seen this because he was fighting Maul at the time. Vader has to be using a combination of force telepathy and force projection to literally force these memories onto Obi-Wan. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you in the next one, Star Wars fans.